His son was still in the ICU, and yet his mother was only worried about whether the cake would taste good to the guests. You want to know what kind of person a mother like that is? Stick with us for this gut-wrenching story and an almost unbelievable decision. Finn lives in Milwaukee. A two-bedroom apartment near a gas station and an old auto shop. Nothing fancy, but warm enough in the winter and quiet at night. That home, for the past 6 years, has just been him and Cole, his only son. His wife died of cancer when Cole was only 4. Since then, Finn's whole world had shrunk down to 4 walls, an old gas stove, and a pair of eyes that would always look up at him and ask, "You okay, Dad?" Finn worked as a technician fixing refrigeration units, ACs, water heaters, sometimes even freezers. It wasn't glamorous work, and it didn't pay much, but it was steady. And most importantly, he got to be home in time for dinner with his son. To him, that was enough. Steady. Peaceful. Cole was different. The kid always had something sharper about him beyond his years. He didn't complain, didn't whine, never begged for toys, just wanted Finn to help build model trains or listen to the math riddles he came up with. He wasn't like other kids, and that made Finn both proud and terrified, because anything that precious always feels fragile. Thursday afternoon. Finn was at a client's house fixing a busted heater. The phone buzzed in his pocket. Unknown number, Milwaukee area code. He answered. A woman's voice. "Are you the parent of Cole Bennett?" Finn said, "Yes," almost on instinct, his heart already pounding in his chest. "Your son was in an accident. A truck ran a red light. Cole was crossing the school crosswalk. Paramedics are taking him to St. Luke's Hospital." The rest of the call felt like it was underwater. Finn couldn't remember how he even got to the hospital. His car keys were somewhere. One shoe was ripped at the heel. His head buzzed. No sound clear except accident, truck, brain trauma, coma, ICU. They didn't let him in right away. A doctor hurried past in the hallway, glanced at him, and said, "We're doing everything we can. But there are no guarantees." Finn collapsed onto a hard plastic chair in the ICU waiting room. His hands were ice cold. It felt just like the day they found Julie's tumor, his wife. Only this time, Julie was already gone. And Cole might not wake up. All night, Finn sat frozen. A cup of cold water sat on the table, untouched. He didn't eat, didn't close his eyes, didn't go to the bathroom. His eyes were locked on the frosted glass door leading into the ICU, waiting for someone to come out and say, "Cole's awake." But no one came out, and Cole didn't wake up. The next morning, when the wall clock hit 7:03, his phone rang. Caller ID, Mom. Finn hesitated for a few seconds, then picked up. Lori's voice was soft as usual, like she was just calling to ask if he was coming over for Thanksgiving. "Are you up yet? I was hoping you could come by a little early today, help set up the tables." "The party's tonight." Finn held his breath. "What party?" "Oh, goodness," she laughed. "My 70th birthday. What else? You forgot. We've got the restaurant. Friends from church. Aunt June flew in from Florida. I need you here by noon, okay? I don't trust anyone else with the flower pillars." Finn closed his eyes. They were bloodshot from being awake all night. His lips were cracked and dry. His head felt like it was splitting open. "Mom," he started, voice rough. "Cole's in the ICU. He got hit by a car yesterday. He's still on a ventilator." Silence. 1 beat, 2, 3. Then Lori replied without the slightest hesitation. "Well, let the machines watch him. This party's a once-in-a-lifetime thing." Finn didn't say another word. He hung up. His hand stayed clenched around the phone. His eyes stayed locked on the ICU door. He didn't move. But inside his chest, something broke. Quietly, heavily, like stone. He sat still for a long time after ending the call. The phone stayed in his hand, screen black, but his fingers gripped it like it held something far more important than the message it had just delivered. His face was burning, but his chest felt hollow. Not from anger, from something older, duller, familiar. The feeling he'd known as a child. That maybe he was the thing getting in the way of someone else's happiness. Over the next 2 days, Lori didn't let up. She kept texting, each message short but heavy like a stone. "I already told everyone you'd be there. Are you doing this just to embarrass me? You can't even try for one important day?" Finn didn't respond to any of them, but he read every single one. Maybe a small part of him was still hoping that just one message would ask, "How's Cole?" But none did. The next day, the invitation photos arrived. Cream-colored with gold trim, The name Lori Bennett, 70 and fabulous, written in script at the center. Beneath it, the phrase, "Your presence would mean the world to us," framed by lavender flower illustrations. Then came the photo of a 3-tier ivory cake, and another of Lori in an evening gown standing beside a bouquet of roses. And finally, a picture of the seating chart. Front and center, near the stage, 2 name cards placed side by side, Finn and Cole. Finn stared at that picture for a long time. Then he set the phone face down on the table and let out a long breath, like he was forcing out every reaction he didn't want to say out loud. That afternoon, Rachel called. Her voice was softer than usual, but still sharp. "Are you really not coming?" Finn closed his eyes and leaned his head against the wall. The metal chair beneath him creaked. "Cole still hasn't woken up, Rach. Where exactly do you think I'm gonna go?" Rachel hesitated. "I know, but Mom's crying. She says you're disrespecting her. Everyone in the family's talking." "Talking about what?" Finn let out a dry laugh. "That my son's about to die and I had the nerve to skip my mom's 70th birthday party?" "You don't have to say it like that," Rachel cut in. "I just thought, it's only a few hours. It's not like Cole even knows what's going on." Finn shot to his feet, nearly knocking over the chair behind him. A nurse passing by glanced at him, concerned. He turned away, gripping the phone so tightly his hand trembled. "You don't get it, Rach, and I don't have the strength to explain." That's where the call ended. On the 3rd night, Finn didn't sleep, not because he was trying to stay awake, because he couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, the image of Cole lying motionless came back. The tubes, the beeping machines, the cold white-blue light casting shadows across his son's face. Just 10 years old. Still smelled like chalk and schoolbooks. His hair wasn't even fully dry from his morning shower, and now that boy lay there, not moving, breathing through a machine. The doctor came around midnight, eyes tired from a long shift, but his voice still steady. The doctor came around midnight. His eyes were heavy with exhaustion after a long shift, but his voice stayed calm. "We're seeing some slight improvement in Cole's response. The brain swelling hasn't increased. But," he looked straight into Finn's eyes, "we still can't say anything for sure about recovery. It's too early." Finn nodded. He didn't ask any more. Too early was all he'd been hearing for the past 3 days. The next morning, during the nurse shift change, a young blonde nurse walked in and glanced at Finn. "You've been here the whole time?" she asked, genuinely surprised. Finn nodded. 3 days. You should get some rest. Maybe step outside for a bit." Finn shook his head, eyes locked on the blinking monitor next to Cole's bed. "Seriously, a burned-out father doesn't help anyone." "And an absent father does?" Finn replied, voice low and raw. The nurse went quiet, then gave a small nod and left the room. Finn stayed put. His body was worn down, his head strung tight like wire, but he couldn't make himself leave. His mind was spinning with one question after another. What if he left, and Cole woke up? What if Cole opened his eyes and found himself alone? Or worse, what if Cole didn't wake up at all, and Finn hadn't been there for the final moment? He couldn't take that risk. Right then, his phone buzzed, a text from Lori. "Just say it straight. Are you coming or not? The family doesn't know what to say without making us all look bad." Finn stared at the screen. For a long time, didn't blink. His chest felt like it was about to split open. This time there was nothing left to say, but in Finn's mind a kind of answer began to form. Not for the text. For a whole life that had been shaped, cornered, by 2 words, saving face. Finn read the message, then set the phone down on the table. But that sentence kept echoing in his head like a slow, steady knock. The family doesn't know what to say without making us all look bad. That word, look, so familiar. He leaned back in the chair, head tilted toward the cold ceiling lights, eyes locked on nothing, and the memories came back, uninvited, unstoppable, flooding in like a dam breaking. The day Julie started chemo, Finn had cleared his schedule for the first 3 weeks. Every time she vomited uncontrollably, every time her body trembled from the meds, he was there. He couldn't fix it. All he could do was sit beside her and hold her hand until the nausea passed. Midway through the 2nd week, Lori called. Her voice was chipper, like it always was when there was some event worth dressing up for. "Your cousin's getting married. The wedding's this Saturday. It's gonna be beautiful. You should come. Bring Julie. It'll be good for everyone." Finn was quiet for a moment. Julie can't make it, Mom. You know that. She can't even sit up for 30 minutes. Lori replied, breezy, like she was talking about a mild cold. Well, it's not like Julie's dying today. You can come for a few hours and go back. She doesn't need you hovering 24/7. Just stop by for a little while so we have something to tell people if they ask. That sentence hit him like a blade, not because it was cruel, but because it was cold. No warmth, no care, no humanity. Just an outsider's logic, weighing pros and cons and social optics. Finn didn't go, and Lori stayed mad at him for a month. Then Julie died. One fall morning, after more than 4 months of fighting. The funeral was simple, held at a small church near their neighborhood. A few of Julie's old co-workers, some friends from her yoga class, and a handful of Finn's relatives, mostly people who genuinely cared about Julie, not just those who felt obligated to show up. Lori sat in the front row, black dress, black sunglasses, dry-eyed. After the service, as Finn stood at the exit, quietly thanking each guest as they left, she pulled him aside and whispered, "That funeral was so plain. Not even one flower arrangement from our side of the family. It was honestly embarrassing." Finn didn't react. He had nothing left to react with. A week later, she sent him a list, names of her friends who should have been invited. At the bottom, she added, "Add anyone else we may have forgotten." The most recent time was when Cole was asked to be the ring bearer at the wedding of Lori's best friend's daughter. The kid hated wearing suits. Turtlenecks made his neck itch, and ties made him feel like he couldn't breathe. Finn tried to explain. Lori didn't listen. "You can't let your son show up looking like a stray. If I didn't know better, I'd think his parents had no idea how to raise him." Finn remembered staying silent. He still made Cole wear the outfit. And after the ceremony, Cole took off the tie in the car, tossed it in the back seat, and didn't say a single word the whole ride home. Every moment, every word, every memory. They all piled up now, like a lump in Finn's chest, as he stared through the glass at his son. Still, unmoving, not a single response. He stood up, pulled out his phone, scrolled to Lori's number. She picked up after 3 rings. "It's me," Finn said. "Oh, finally decided to call back?" Her voice was the same as always, calm, with a hint of smugness. "So what's the decision? I need to lock things in. The party won't wait." "I'm not coming," Finn said clearly, each word deliberate. "And neither is Cole." A beat of silence. "What?" "I said it already. Don't wait for us. I'm not coming. Cole's not coming. Don't save our seats." Lori's voice exploded on the other end, so loud, Finn had to pull the phone away from his ear. "Then I'm cutting off Cole's tuition. I mean it. Don't think I'm bluffing. Don't ever show your face at this house again. As far as I'm concerned, I don't have a son named Finn." Finn brought the phone back to his ear. His voice wasn't raised. It wasn't cold, just steady, like someone who'd been ready for this moment for a long time. "If I have to choose between Cole's safety and your reputation," he said slowly, "then I choose Cole." Then he hung up, and this time he didn't just power off his phone. He blocked the number. The screen went quiet. In that moment, Finn didn't feel relief. He didn't feel regret either, just a pure, absolute emptiness. But in the middle of that emptiness, there was something that felt like truth. Finally, spoken out loud. Finn sat back down, leaning against the wall, eyes fixed on the blinking numbers on the monitor beside Cole's bed. The previous night felt like a long, raw cut, painful, but quiet. No phone ringing, no one pushing or shaming him, and somehow that silence made him feel closer to Cole than ever before. Just before 7 a.m., a doctor tapped gently on the door and stepped in, holding a clipboard of Cole's vitals. Finn stood up immediately, hands clasped together out of habit. "We just ran another check," the doctor said. "Intracranial pressure is down. His lungs are starting to show slight reflexes. He's not breathing fully on his own yet, but it's a positive sign." Finn stared at him, unblinking. It wasn't, "He's going to be okay," but it also wasn't, "There are no guarantees." "Slight reflexes, does that mean he might wake up?" Finn asked, voice trembling. "We still need to monitor him, but yes, there's more hope than yesterday." Finn nodded over and over, his throat tight like he'd just swallowed a wad of cotton. He didn't even get the words, "thank you" out. He just turned, walked into the room, and went straight to Cole's bedside. The boy was still lying there, skin pale, eyes shut tight, hair matted from days without a wash. But his breathing, it was no longer harsh, no longer labored like before. It was steadier, softer. It had rhythm. Finn leaned down and took his son's small hand, cold but soft. And then, just barely, one of Cole's fingers curled inward, so slight you wouldn't see it unless your skin felt it. "I'm here, Cole," Finn whispered, his forehead resting against that tiny hand. "Dad's here." And then, the strangest thing happened. A gentle squeeze, like wind, like a single strand of hair brushing across his palm. Finn looked up. His body stayed completely still. He stared down at Cole's hand. The fingers hadn't moved again, but something had changed. It wasn't wishful thinking. It wasn't false hope. It was real. He smiled, a smile that slipped out through wet lashes, and then he cried. No sound, just tears, hot, salty, overflowing. Like everything he'd been holding in for days had finally found a way out. He stayed by the bed, still holding Cole's hand, until daylight filled the whole room. Every few minutes he whispered something softly. "Dad's right here. No rush. Take your time." Around noon, a nurse came in to check the machines. She looked at the readings, nodded to herself. "Looks like your little guy's putting up a real fight," she said. Finn looked at her, nodded back. No smile, no words. He simply raised a finger to his lips, a silent request to keep the moment still. She understood, and quietly stepped out. By early afternoon, the thing no one dared hope would come so soon happened. Cole moved his eyes. At first, it was just a twitch in the eyelid, then another. And slowly, very slowly, like the light was too bright for him to bear, Cole's eyes began to open. Finn leaned in, heart clenching in his chest. "Cole," he whispered, urgent. Those eyes, brown and clear just like always, drifted slowly around the room, still unfocused but aware. Present. Finn gave his hand a gentle squeeze. "It's Dad. I'm here. I've got you." Cole didn't speak. The breathing tube was still taped beneath his nose, wires draped over his small body. But his eyes locked onto Finn's, and a single tear slipped down his cheek. Finn reached up and wiped it away. "We're still catching that ball game next month, right?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm, like it was just another quiet Sunday morning. Cole blinked once, slow, then nodded. Finn laughed, out loud, then cried again. He leaned down, gently cradling his son's head, forehead pressed to forehead, and whispered, "Yeah, we're going. I promise." Cole couldn't speak, but those eyes, that tiny nod, it was enough. A while later, Finn settled back into the chair, still holding Cole's hand, still watching him like if he blinked too long, the moment might vanish. He whispered, barely loud enough for the room to hear, "And next time, no one cuts in, not even your grandma." Finn stayed by Cole's bed almost the entire night. Even knowing his son was more stable now, he couldn't look away for long. Every shift, every twitch of a hand or flicker of an eye stole his breath for a second. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was something closer to reverence, the feeling of guarding something so precious, you know the world might try to take it back at any moment. By morning, Finn got up to wash his face. As he stepped back toward the room, he saw the shadow of a woman entering. Hurried, heels clicking sharply against the floor. Behind her was a large man with a camera slung around his neck, awkward and clearly unsure of where to stand. Lori. She wore a deep blue dress, her hair perfectly curled, makeup light but meticulous, every bit of her appearance clearly prepared. She strode toward Cole's bed, lips curved in a half-smile like she was greeting guests at a luncheon. "I heard the boy woke up," she beamed, then turned to the photographer, patting his shoulder. "Let's get a few shots, yeah? This is a touching moment." Finn stepped in, blocking the space between her and the bed. "No," he said, eyes steady, unblinking. Lori looked up at him, momentarily thrown. "What?" "Out," Finn said, voice calm, not raised. "You've got 5 minutes, no photos, no party talk, no tuition threats." Lori's face flushed, not from shame, but from shock. Maybe no one had ever spoken to her that clearly before, least of all her own son. "I gave birth to you," she snapped, voice rising. "And now you're treating me like some uninvited guest? I came because I care about Cole." "Then what's with the camera?" Finn pointed behind her. The man stood frozen, clearly just hired to snap a few shots of the devoted grandmother moment. "I wanted to capture the reunion," Lori said, louder now. "The way you just embarrassed me, that kind of ungratefulness is unforgivable. What was I supposed to tell everyone at the party?" Finn sighed, still planted firmly between her and Cole's bed. He kept himself steady by biting the inside of his lip, hard enough to taste blood. "You've got 5 minutes," he repeated. "But if you're just here to do PR for your reputation, you can leave right now." Lori's hands trembled with anger. She rolled her eyes, then yanked her purse off her shoulder, spun around, and stormed toward the door. But before she left, she turned back and hissed, "One day, you'll know what it feels like to have your own child turn their back on you." The door slammed shut. Finn didn't move. His shoulders stayed tense, eyes locked on the door like he expected her to storm back in. But no one came. About 10 minutes later, his phone buzzed. "Rachel." He answered, but before he could speak, her voice exploded through the line. "You really went too far, Finn. Mom just wanted to see her grandson. Do you have any idea how much she put into planning that party? And now you're just cutting her off completely? I don't even recognize you anymore." Finn leaned back against the wall, eyes closing. "Do you even know Cole still can't speak yet?" he said slowly, clearly. "He's awake, but he has to relearn how to swallow water. Do you know my son almost died because someone ran a red light? But it was Mom's birthday. You only turned 70 once. Doesn't she deserve a proper celebration too? Then who deserves to survive?" Finn's voice shook now. "Who deserves to have their dad at their bedside all night? You think snapping a few photos and leaving makes you loving?" Silence on the other end. Finn didn't wait. He hung up. He stepped back into the room and sat down beside Cole's bed. His hands were still slightly trembling, but inside him there was a clarity he'd never felt before. Like everything tangled had just gone quiet, and in the silence, a single line had revealed itself. Finn looked at his son. Cole was still asleep. The heart monitor pulsed steadily, its green light blinking softly like a breath. He leaned in close and whispered into his son's ear, "You're home. They're just noise." About 20 minutes later, Cole stirred. He opened his eyes and turned his head toward Finn, still a little dazed but fully awake. "Dad," he said softly, voice hoarse. Finn smiled and held his hand. "I'm here." "Grandma?" Cole paused, searching for the word. "Is she mad at me?" Finn hesitated for a second, then leaned down and whispered, slowly, clearly, so Cole could hear it and believe it. "No, she just doesn't know how to love the right way." 3 weeks later, the sun began to return gently to Milwaukee. Winter was slowly slipping off their shoulders, and in the main lobby of St. Luke's Hospital, Cole sat in a wheelchair beside Finn, a light blanket draped over his legs. He wore a gray hoodie and a slightly too small baseball cap, one Finn had bought for him back in 3rd grade. Cole insisted on wearing it. "For luck," he said, giving a soft smile. He still struggled to walk. His left hand was slow to react, and his voice, still raspy, broken in places. But his mind was clear. Every answer was slow but solid. And the most important thing, from the hospital room all the way to the front doors, Cole never let go of his father's hand. Not even for a second. Finn pushed the wheelchair himself, leaning down as they moved to say quiet, scattered things. "Let's go home. Dinner's baked pasta, just how you like it." The nightlight's still in the same spot. There's ice cream in the fridge, mint chocolate chip. Each line made Cole smile softly, then nod. He didn't say much, but every so often, his fingers gave a light squeeze around his dad's, just enough to let Finn know he was still here, still alive, still trusted him. When they got home, Finn helped him lie down to rest, then dropped into a chair. His back felt like it might crack in half. 3 weeks of no sleep, nonstop tension, mind and body stretched thin, finally started to unwind. He looked around their little apartment. Nothing had changed. Same furniture, same lighting, same quiet hum in the air, but something inside him had shifted. The doorway now felt like a clear line. Out there was everything he'd endured. In here was everything he chose to keep. Finn decided to cut back his hours. He asked the company to move him to flexible shifts and took on freelance repair work for regular clients. No more full days of running around just to catch a glimpse of his son asleep at night. Right now, Cole didn't need a provider. He needed a father, someone truly present. About 2 weeks after they returned home, Finn got a call from a paralegal, someone representing Lori. "We're contacting you officially to inform you, Miss Lori Bennett has fully withdrawn the trust fund she previously established for Cole. All documentation will be sent within the week." The voice was cold, strictly professional. No explanation, no check-in, no warmth. Finn wasn't surprised. He simply nodded and replied with one sentence, "Noted." Another day, a delivery driver knocked on the door. A package sat at the threshold, sender listed as Rachel. Inside were a few expensive children's books, a building toy set, and one envelope, blank. No message, no signature. Finn closed the box, sent it back to the return address. Didn't add a note, didn't cross anything out. Just a silent but firm rejection. He wasn't angry. There was no need for rage or righteous speeches. It was simple. He didn't want anyone, not Rachel, not Lori, thinking they still had any say over Cole. No gift could erase the scar, and no gift would shake Finn's resolve. April brought a surprise stretch of good weather. The Brewers were playing the Cubs at Miller Park. Finn had bought tickets early, not too close to the field but with a clear view of everything. That morning, father and son wore new jackets, packed sandwiches from home, and brought a bottle of fruit juice. Cole walked slowly, but insisted on stepping into the stadium on his own, only reaching for his dad's hand now and then to steady himself. Finn didn't say much. He knew Cole needed space to take in every moment. The smell of the grass, the click of metal cleats, the booming voice over the loudspeakers calling out player names. The boy leaned against his father's shoulder through most of the first half, eating his sandwich in small bites, watching every pitch like he was relearning how to live. Slow, steady, present. Mid-game, as the team switched sides, Cole turned. "Dad? Yeah? When I have a kid someday? Will you come to their birthday?" Finn turned to look at Cole. In the soft spring sunlight, the boy's face still carried traces of exhaustion, but his eyes were clear now, bright. Finn took his small hand, tried to keep his voice steady, though emotion pulled at the edges. "As long as you need me, I'll be there. Hospital, ballpark, or just sitting next to you in a quiet room." Cole didn't say anything else. He just leaned his head on his father's shoulder, and Finn looked out over the field. The crowd roared. A clean, solid hit cracked through the air. But Finn wasn't listening. His thoughts were somewhere else. Some people choose reputation. And then there are people like him, who choose to show up. What would you choose if one day you had to decide between honoring your parents and protecting your child? Finn made a choice many would call disrespectful. But to him, being a father wasn't about pleasing his own parents. It was about being the anchor for a child holding on to life by a thread. Not everyone who brings us into this world knows how to love us right. And not everyone who carries the title family earns the right to define our happiness forever. Sometimes you have to let go of certain things to hold on to what matters more: peace, self-respect, and being truly present in the lives of the ones you love. And you? If you were in Finn's place, what would you do? If this story made you reflect about family, boundaries, or choices, leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, share if it resonated, and subscribe so you never miss the stories that reach into the heart. See you in the next episode.